Welcome, everyone, to our latest episode where we discuss the Disney Lorcana trading card game. We are the Lorcana Twins. And as you can see, this episode will focus on two new card reveals that we got this last week, which include the Cheshire Cat and Maurice.
Yes, it looks like Emerald and Sapphire are each getting another card revealed, and both of them were super exciting. So we will get right into it with the first one that was revealed, the Cheshire Cat.
Nice. Well, visually, I love this card, and I just wanted to mention, first of all, that when this card was first revealed and I saw the animations, on the Twitter that was posted by Lorcana, it was really cool how the cat materialized. First, there was nothing on the branch, and then he came into existence, kind of how he does in the films. And it just really made me think that if someday, down the line, they were to make a digital client where you can play with the cards digitally, it'd be just fun to see all the animations they could put into the cards and really kind of liven up the experience.
Right, and I think, if you use the system maybe where when you open packs, you get a code that you can then input those cards into the game online. That'd be a good way to kind of not take away business from people buying the cards, because I know that's the main part of the game and what we all want to support and grow. But yeah, just to give people another option if maybe you don't have a huge local scene in your area, or it's convenient, to quick hop online and play a few games, that would be fun too. But yeah, here's the Cheshire Cat. He is a 3-cost emerald with the flourish, and his subtext is not all there. He is 0 strength and 3 defense, and then he has a really cool ability called Lose Something. When this character is challenged and banished, banish the challenging character.
I think this is a really interesting card, just all things considered, because first of all, the 0 strength suggests right away that you're not going to be putting this in your deck to win combat challenges because he doesn't deliver any damage. However, he does have that effect attached to him where if someone challenges and banishes him, they get banished as well. So it kind of says to the opponent, you probably don't want to take this out, but then that kind of allows the Cheshire Cat player to go on quests for lore, basically.
Right, it feels bad probably to challenge and lose one of your characters, but again, like you said, there's going to be some lore on this character. It was hidden during the reveal, so we're not sure if it's 1 or 2, though we're heavily leaning toward 1 right now at this point.
Yeah, I think 2 lore would just be very busted because 1 lore is a little more consistent with the other 3-cost cards that they've revealed so far. Tinkerbell is 3-cost and she has 1 lore. And I believe Elsa is a 3-cost with 1 lore.
Yep.
And both of them have effects that are pretty good as well. And they have some stats on them as well.
Yeah, they're maybe a little more flexible in terms of they can do combat too. They're not just relying on their effect. But, again, if this was, let's say, 2 lore, so far the only characters worth 2 lore besides shift characters, they cost at least 5, like Jumba is one example. So to put 2 lore on this, it would heavily incentivize your opponent to challenge it and banish it, which then you'd probably get more use out of the effect. But it might just be a little too strong and overvalued then if it was 2. So it's probably going to be 1, but I guess, we'll see.
Yeah, essentially I think, a lot of people maybe feel like, well, if it's only worth 1, why would I ever attack into this? Why wouldn't I just leave it on the board? And over time though, 1 free lore every turn if you're like not touching this after your opponent sends it on a quest, that's going to add up, and we really don't know how much lore you need to probably win the game, if that is one of the win conditions or the win condition. But if you're just letting them have free lore every time, you're kind of putting yourself on a clock, and you're kind of maybe saying, am I going to race them to get there? But another example with this card is, like, let's say you were playing Emerald with Ruby and you used Mulan. Mulan could banish someone in a challenge, and then your Cheshire Cat would get an additional lore. And maybe you're also playing, a lot of Cruella de Vil's or, other annoying minions where your opponent says, like, I don't want to attack Cruella because I'm going to get something sent back to my hand. So if they just leave your board unchallenged the whole time, suddenly Mulan can really, get a lot of extra value out of your board. So I think there's fun things that you can try with the Cheshire Cat, and there might also be cards at some point that make your opponent attack into a specific character. So.
Right, that'd be a way to force them to trigger this ability, and that would just make this card even stronger. So yeah,
But I almost feel like he might be annoying enough on his own without that sort of support, but it would certainly add extra layers to the game.
Now, if you fall way behind on board, then this probably does not feel too good to play because they will just leave it sit up, unless you can force them to take it out. But, and then I would also just say there are some characters you could use to challenge this character that would feel pretty good. Like if you have Captain Hook on the board, I mean, you only have to pay 1 to play Hook, and when he challenges, he'd have enough strength to take out the Cheshire Cat, which the opponent played for 3 resources. So that would feel like a good trade. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't feel so good to maybe lose something that you spent 6 resources playing against the Cheshire Cat. So, there's definitely times where you just want to take it out quick when you can, if the value is there, like in the Captain Hook situation.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the cost of him and see he's 3. So, if you're going to trade into him, you probably want to do it with a minion that's, 3 cost or less, at the most.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be giving them extra value that his stats don't really deserve in terms of a trade. But I feel like, too, another thing, if you're building your deck to just say, I'm going to play these annoying minions that get me free lore return, this would combo really well with evasive characters, because if you were doing like a red-green deck, you could put evasive characters in there that are just harder for your opponent to deal with, and then you leave up characters like Cheshire Cat and Cruella where they maybe don't want to deal with it, and then if you add in like Mulan, suddenly everything is just even stronger. And so maybe this type of deck could be a good one to like race to get the most lore, and your opponent might be forced to make some awkward decisions that they don't want to do, and
Yeah, I think Ruby Emerald is sounding pretty fun right now, and that is one of the starter deck colors. So perhaps
we'll just have to see if this card is really playable or not. It's hard to say at this point.
But it looks really cool.
But I think it's fun.
Yeah, the cat, he might just sit there grinning at you while he collects a bunch of lore all game long until you decide to deal with him. And maybe it'll be too late at that point. So
I think he's gonna look sweet in foil as well.
Oh, so for sure. Yeah.
Hope to open one of those.
Definitely a very neat looking card. And now we will move on to Maurice.
This was a very exciting reveal today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this art is also fantastic too, and as he's a Dreamborn, so it's cool to note that he's a little bit different from his original version. It looks like he has more of a professional workshop here, as opposed to in the film, he's just kind of in a little village shop, potentially attached to his house.
Yeah, but he looks like he's got a lot of high-tech gadgets and gizmos going on.
And he should, since he's the world-famous inventor, according to his subtitle. And then, so what's cool about him is he has a couple potentially strong effects. The first one is Give It a Try. So whenever he goes on a quest, you pay 2 cost less for the next item you play in that turn.
So this was like very revealing. We did think there was going to be some quest mechanic, as we touched on in an earlier video, but this just confirms right here that it says whenever this character quests. So that is what we think to be the win condition. We imagine you're questing to go and collect some lore, and then what's really cool is it lets you pay 2 less for the next item you play. And so far we've only seen 2 items, and we'll touch on those in a little bit, but this will just help reduce the cost of playing those items.
And so before we kind of thought like some options you might have in your turn would be you could challenge with the character, or you could probably quest with the character, and likely we think you have to exert to do either of those options, and that we feel like your character is most likely vulnerable when they're exerted. So the potential trade-off here is you're setting him up to be attacked or challenged by your opponent, but the great thing here is you're getting 2 cost reduction on your next item. So if you build a heavily focused item deck, you should easily find the value here. And then his 7 defense is really high. Like that's the highest we've seen so far. Hades has 7 as well. But with 7 defense, it should take a decent number of characters to hit into this if you're in the mid game when you might be playing a 6 cost character. Right. So he should be able to survive, hopefully.
And it's really nice too, his second ability, it says that when you play an item, you get to draw a card. So not only are you reducing the cost of the item, but then you're drawing a card right away and kind of replacing that item in your hand. So he'll just keep cycling through your deck that way. And one of the items so far is Magic Mirror, which can also help you draw more cards. So definitely a way to help you get a lot of different tools into your hand to deal with whatever your opponent is putting into play. So,
yeah, I think if you're playing an item heavy deck, like you would feel bad if you weren't using Maurice, I think, just because of the additional value he can generate. so easily, like with the abilities printed on his card.
Yeah, so let's take a look at a couple of the items that he might get some value out of. So we have White Rabbit's Pocket Watch, cost of 3, and Magic Mirror at a cost of 2. And so yeah, if you have, let's say, 8 resources, or assuming you, well, never mind. If you have 6 and you play him right away, yeah, we don't know if you have to wait till your next turn.
But we assume that
exert, but
I would
we
definitely
do
assume
you do.
he has summoning sickness, and it's most likely that you're not allowed to quest if you have summoning sickness, since we feel that's like an exerting type action.
So perhaps after the turn that you've played him, you send him on a quest to get some lore, and then all of a sudden the Magic Mirror, which costs 2, you could just play for free and get that onto the board.
And then you'll draw instantly because of the It Works effect. So you played the Magic Mirror, you already draw a card, and you haven't spent any resources doing that on the turn after you played Maurice. So that's cool. And then also the White Rabbit's Pocket Watch would cost 1 if that was the first item you played after you went on a quest with him. And so even if you spent 1 for that and then you paid 2 for the Magic Mirror as a follow-up, you've only spent 3, you've drawn 2 cards. I mean, that just very quickly is adding up in the value of your card drop, because Magic Mirror, if you read the Speak effect, you need to pay 4 resources just to draw 1 card. So if you played those 2 items in one turn for a total cost of 3 when you have Maurice down, then you've spent less than the 4 and you've drawn an additional card beyond what Magic Mirror would let you do for 4. So great value there, and
the rush factor as well. This, to me, it seems like it could really help you to control the board in a sense, where the opponent might think that they're sitting nice and pretty with whatever they've got, maybe going on a quest for lore, and all of a sudden you surprise them with a nice pocket watch at a reduced cost, and then you run one of your units in.
Oh, there's where I think you probably can't do that, though, because I think items probably have summoning sickness as well.
But I mean, I guess, if it's already on the board and you got it for a reduced cost, I guess you're just
he just
catching up a little
He just
bit.
Helps make the item decks run smoother, I think.
Right, because this could be...
If you're not playing him, then you need to come up with these additional resources first to just play the items down. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing a deck with Maurice, you can maybe be playing other characters earlier on, and then kind of wait to drop your items when you get a big cost reduction on them, and then kind of use them in the late game to help you, clean up the board with the pocket watch, or help you accelerate your card draw with the Magic Mirror.
So it appears he just helps you maybe get what could be some potentially slower cards in other decks, like the pocket watch and the mirror, into play sooner without hurting your board development as much, because when you can just play him down and then get a free mirror or a 1-cost pocket watch, that really doesn't interrupt the flow of your curve too badly. So yeah, I think if you're gonna use these types of items, then pairing it with Maurice could be the way to go.
Now the other thing I thought would be something to point out is that Maurice being in Sapphire and being a character that gives you some value for playing items, to me that suggests there's probably going to be a decent number of Sapphire items. And I would also speculate that each ink will probably have at least 1 or 2 items across the, let's say, 34 cards that each ink is probably going to get in set 1.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like, with that being one of the types of cards, they're probably going to want to put some of those cards towards the item category. And whether or not the item is great combined with the blue deck, that will kind of help decide which colors work best with him. But so far, purple being the only thing we've seen, it's hard to say what else might work.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they decide to theme the items. So, maybe for steel, which we know that ink type is supposed to be about brute force, maybe an item will be able to kind of increase the stats or the attack power on one of your characters that is challenging or something, and maybe for Emerald, an item might look a little different. It might have a couple different options, or maybe a negative effect for the opponent when it interacts with that item.
And possibly a ruby item might be able to give something evasive for a turn, or a sapphire item might give something ward for a turn.
Sure.
There's so much they could do with items, and I think the fact that Maurice is in the game it's going to be a lot of fun just building item heavy decks and seeing if it can be a top tier strategy. And it seems like it might have potential.
Yeah, I think overall this is a really nice reveal, and it gave us a little glimpse into more of the rules, or what the rules might be, with their hint at questing. And just, it looks like a very cool card. We'll have to see if the game is too fast paced for Maurice to feel that good, or if he fits in great and really helps you get ahead. So,
and now after Maurice's reveal, there's only one ink left, where Lorcana developers have not specified exactly what the point of the ink is, and that is amethyst, I believe. So it's possible that next week we might be getting some kind of amethyst reveal with a little more clarification on what the theme of the amethyst ink is.
But
but
before too long, we will
to
have
hear
the
that.
rules as well, or so we think. So that should be a really nice reveal when that does come, and that'll just kind of make all the cards make a little bit extra sense. And then
I think everyone's just really ready to know how the game plays, and so we can start looking at these cards a little more critically and think about deck building.
And even some of the cards that have been revealed, like here with Maurice too, I mean, the lore amount is still being hidden, and other things like the rarity of the card, and that's been the case for a lot of the other cards too. So it's hard to compare their value and guess at like how good they might be without all the pieces of the picture. But yeah, we should probably be getting them before too long.
Yeah, with him, I think it's hard to guess the lore too. I mean, I almost feel like his effects are so strong and his stats are pretty good that maybe he's only going to be 2, because if
I would guess 2 if I had to guess.
And like you look at Gantu, he costs 8. He's got 2 because he's got what could be a strong effect. You've got Maleficent who costs 9, and she's got 2 lore. So, but yeah, Stitch.
He has a good effect, and
Stitch has a strong effect and 3 lore.
A 6 cost, but you can shift him out earlier too. So I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe Maurice could be worth 3. But
if he's worth 3, they're definitely going to want to be taking him out as soon as possible.
I think his good stats in terms of defense anyway, not so much attack, but the defense, and then coupled with those 2 abilities that might generate a lot of value for you and card draw for you, like that seems very valuable. So I would not be surprised if he's limited to the 2 lore. But yeah, other than that, I think it was a great week of character reveals anyway, just a couple, but maybe going forward, the reveals will start to ramp up, or maybe they'll hold steady. But it's always just fun to see a new reveal, and it gives you a little more insight into
my favorite reveals are ones like this one, where you get to see kind of a broader sense of different decks you might be able to try to build. This one clearly focuses on items while still generating card draw, and that's exciting. And the Cheshire Cat just further kind of shows how Emerald has some annoying minions that make your opponent kind of think about what's the best way to get rid of them. So but on that note, with Maurice, I thought we just ask if you want to put in the comments some item ideas that you might have that you'd like to see in the game, just now that we know there's this very item focused glimmer here that is going to interact well with items. What are some of your item ideas that you'd really like to see in the game?
Yeah, and is he a card that you would like to build a deck around? I know I'm really excited to start, once we know the full card list, just doing some analysis and crafting of different deck ideas. And he definitely seems like a fun card to build a deck around. So.
Yeah, he kind of raises the question of, are we going to have cards that help us remove items? I think probably yes, because once you get the pocket watch down, is that guaranteed to be free value for the rest of the game, essentially? Like, is there no way for the opponent to interact with that card other than setting your board up in such a way that it's as strong as it can be to anything that might rush in? But I think Maurice potentially raising the concept of these item heavy decks, there's probably going to be some way for us to try to counteract what he's trying to do with these items.
Right, and if nothing else, he seems to imply that there will be a decent number of items left to be revealed in this first chapter. So
excited
we're
for
excited.
All of that.
Yep. But until next time, take care, and thank you for watching.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.